Okay, today is the 24th day of Nisan, the 22nd of April. So now we finally get to the Chassidus, and it says the Chassidus starts with this topic that we already talked about, which is the angels in the chariot. He's going to teach it in a different way than we saw in Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah, but it pretty much goes into the same conclusion. So he says, Lavin kol zot inyan shi'ur hey. So I want to understand this whole topic of why the seorah, the barley, is called the measurement of hay, or the hay as gvura, as today is gvura shebagvura. It's very appropriate to start this topic today. And this is related to the general topic that the kingdom, that Malchus is built out of Gvura, or the way we've been translating it, the speech, first of all, needs to have Gvura. If there's no Gvura, if there's no contraction, if there's no ability to put stops or gaps, then there's no speech. So it says we need to first talk about that in the chariot seen by Ezekiel, there's a verse that describes the wings of the angels, and it says, their faces and their wings were split above. Meaning from the top side they're split, they're separate. Perush. So what does this mean, their faces and their wings? So their faces, so their wings, he says, Perush knafem udchilu rechimu shel malachim. These are the love and might, the two arms, as it were. For an angel or for a bird, the two wings are like its two arms. So like by us, the two arms are loving kindness and might, chesed and gvura. It's the same thing by them. So if you say it in Aramaic, it's dechilu, which means fear, and rechimu, which means love. Of the angels, shem kimashal knafayim bo'of, which are like wings in a bird, shebahem v'al-yadam me'ofefim klepei mala, which they use to fly up. And that's how they elevate to get to where they want to go. So I mentioned this when we studied the Merkava a little bit, the chariot a little bit in Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah, that the usual explanation, especially by the early Kabbalists, of the chariot, the significance of it was that this is a vision of language. It's very not the first thing that you would think of, but the fact that there are three levels of angels and other things, this has to do with the three-letter root system in Hebrew. Srafim, Ofanim, V'chayot. So these are like the three letters, and the most important one is the Saraf. He's the first letter, and then the second is the Ofan, and then the Chaya. And guys, there's a lot of books, especially there's a book called Sefirat Malchus, which was written in the 14th century that elaborates on this a lot, and a lot of things with language. So really, when you think about it, this is a way of understanding. I don't know if retroactively, in retrospect, or whether it is exactly what Ezekiel hadn't understood, but this was like a vision. You could say almost an intellectual understanding that came in a vision, in a physical vision of what the language is built out of. In any case, the idea of the angels going somewhere, where do they want to go? It's that language carries you to where you want to go. In other words, you can't move either psychologically, intellectually, in terms of feelings. You can't move without language. You need to have language in order to move. And as it turns out, the letters or the angels have wings. In other words, that if my words have emotion, they carry me further. They're stronger than when my words don't have emotion. It depends again on what kind of emotion and exactly what, but this is what the emotion is what carries me to my destination. It's what enables me to get to where I want to go. Limchoz cheftzam v'tshukatam. In this way they get to their destination, which is where they want to go. They have chefetz, and they have tshukan, they have yearning to get there. So here you already understand that angels are not, they're not understood here just as something technical. Even if they are technical, there's an added dimension of the emotion that's associated with them. Because they have yearning, that's already more than just something that's going from, it's not like a train that's taking you from one point to another and doesn't care, it could care less if you really want to go or don't want to go. Here, this is the whole idea in language. Language is developed, it deepens, it carries more, the more emotion a person has when he's talking. Also the angels.
An element of free will that an angel has, or is that pushing?
Yes, it could be that's what causes the changes. Changes come from there being some dimension of freedom here. Yes. And the angels are called birds, as it says, as the sages say about the verse in Genesis in the beginning. And birds were flapping over the earth. As Of ze Michael, Yofef ze Gabriel. So the sages say, and here he quotes from the Zohar, but it's also in the Gemara, that the bird here, which is flapping, the bird is Michael, the archangel Michael, and Yofef is Gabriel. What do you learn from this? You learn that what Michael can do in one flap, because it just says off one time, Gabriel needs twice. Ofif, like it's flapping. It's like the verb is conjugated, like it's doubled. Meaning you can get with love what you need twice as much might to get to. There's the way the Gemara says this is Michael ba'achat, that Michael goes the distance, spans the distance with one flap. The Gabriel b'shtayim, and Gabriel needs two flaps of his wings as a word to get. Well, they're not talking about birds really. They're talking about the words that carry you. So what you can do with love, what you can do with words of love, you need twice as many words of might. In any case, so they elevate, they are able to fly, they're able to lift themselves off the ground thanks to either their love, their yearning, or their fear, their might. To go back to their source. So that's really what the purpose of language is. The purpose of language is to connect a person back to his source. We usually think about it as to communicate. So you could also say that every communication is a joining of two things together. So you say that it doesn't mean that we go back to our source where we were one before. So if the communication is good, then we're now unified. We're joined together. All the more so if a person is praying, for instance. So he's praying. So he's using the words to elevate himself back to his soul source. And this is the secret of what it means when it says there that they were burning like torches. What are we talking about? Why were they burning like torches? So that image of that these angels were burning like torches is an image of their passion. That their passion is like a fire that rises up. Okay, so now that was about the wings in general. That the wings represent the emotions that go into these angels. But in their wings, they're different one from another. They're not the same. In general, they were all attached. All four angels were attached. Yeah, right. But on top, they're separate. So their faces are separate. That's why one has the face of a lion. And their top wings are also separate from one another. They're not joined. What does that mean? He says that each one has his own method of serving God. Each one has a different emotion. One uses love and one uses fear or might. In the same way, like one has the face of a lion, hu el hayamin. This is Michael, who's to the right. He's the lion. He's the chesed. She'afifato v'istalkuto likolel b'mkoro b'bchinat ahava, whose emotion and the way that he lifts himself, he elevates himself, is with love. V'zeh sod ke'ari yish'ag, and that's what Hosea, he says, that God roars like a lion. What do you mean he roars like a lion? He's not a lion. He doesn't roar. I mean to say, I'm talking about the manifestation of God as a word, this revelation of God through the angels. So I'm talking about Michael. He roars like a lion. Even then, I don't really mean that he makes a sound. What I mean is that I see the emotion, the passion of a lion in him. V'hu machane Michael, and that's the encampment of Michael. It says why afterwards, after the giving of the Torah. So there was the sin of the golden calf, but after the sin of the golden calf, and after the building of the tabernacle, when the people saw that they had been forgiven, so they said to Moses, we also want to be ordered like the angels, which we saw at the giving of the Torah. It says, and during the giving of the Torah, they saw the Merkava. Why did they see the Merkava? Why did they see the chariot? Because Hashem was speaking. So all speech is the chariot. So they saw this. So they said, we also want to be ordered like them. So they are divided into 4 camps. Again, this is like the image that Ezekiel sees later. So we also want to be divided into 4 camps. So there's a camp to the right, a camp to the left, a camp to the north, a camp to the south. And these are like the angels, the same configuration. So there's Machane Michael, the encampment of Michael to the right, Ufnei Shor Me'asmol, and the ox, the face of the ox to the left, She'avodato b'bchinat yira shor go'eh Machane Gavriel. And there the emotion is one of fear, of might. And that is the encampment of Gavriel. Gavriel literally comes from the word Gvura, from might. Ufnei Nesher, hu malachim she'avodatam v'fifatam b'midah memutzat. And then there is the face of the eagle, which is the angels whose work is, and their work, meaning their ability to fly, their ability to reach their destination, is it's a median between ahava v'ira, between love and fear. What do we call this? We call it Tiferes. Right? So the Nesher is Tiferes, is beauty. V'imidata rachmanut, and the inner experience of Tiferes is compassion. So that's that. Kidichtiv kenesher ya'ir kino. It describes Hashem as like an eagle who's waking up his nest. V'azeh ne'emar ve'esa etchem al kanfei nesharim. מחמת שהיו ישראל בגשמיות בכל מבנים ושיעבו במצרים לא היו רואים לזכות לאלוהי נפלא במתן תורה, דיבר השם עמם פנים פנים, כי אם על ידי התעוררות רחמים רבים עליהם. So then he says, this is what it says in Dvarim, in Shmos 19, Exodus 19:4, I carried you on the wings of eagles. Why? Why this image? Why we didn't go on wings of eagles? I promise everybody there weren't any wings of eagles. What he means to say, says the Rebbe, is that this is an image of compassion. That when the Jewish people came out of Egypt, they weren't worthy yet. They were in no position to be able to receive the Torah. So Hashem had to have compassion on us to bring us to Mount Sinai. So the image is like I carried you on the wings of eagles. It's like the most compassionate way I brought you to this place where you could receive the Torah. והטעם שכנפיהם פרודות ומצד התחלקות האור והחירות הנמשך להם ממקורם. So the reason that their wings are separate is because each one receives a different type of revelation of Hashem, a different type of light, we call it. Light is revelation. So this goes back exactly what we learned in Shorish Mitzvah Setfilah, that every word that we utter is like a different revelation of godliness. Every one is. It's like what the Gemara says, that every word of the Torah is the name of Hashem. It's not just that the names of God are just Havaya or Elokim, or all the words really in the end, the revelations of Hashem. Because all of their life force, all of their passion, all that they have, all their sustenance, it all comes from the speech and the spirit of God's speech. So what do we have here? We have the speech and the spirit is like the ruach, the wind here, the wind that comes out. So this is exactly what it says later. Lemakom asher yelech sham haruach sham yasovu lalechet. That wherever the wind carries them, that's where they go. So that clearly is a very direct reference to the windpipe. That however your wind that's coming out, the spirit that's coming out of you, wherever it's directed, that is where these angels go. Because they have no ability to move themselves. They're moved by your speech. וכמובן, ממאמר הז"ל, ואוף זה מיכאל, הנזכר לעיל, שמצירופי אותיות אלו שאמר, השם בששת ימי בראשית, נברא מיכאל ומחנהו וגבריאל ומחנהו. So he says, so that's by us, that's our speech. But now we understand also that when Hashem created the world, he also used speech. The same image, the same metaphor. We don't use a different metaphor. We don't say God used a wand. That would be also a metaphor. Also, obviously, he doesn't have a wand, but even if he had something like that. So we see that Moses does certain things with his staff, with his wand, you could call it. So there's also stuff like that. But when Hashem created the world, the metaphor that's used is speech. So Hashem also, the initial creation of these angels is through Hashem's speech, God's speech in the 6 days of creation, where he created the encampment of Michael and the encampment of Gabriel. And speech is what we call the kingdom of heaven. It's very, very strong here. Because people, when they think about the kingdom of heaven, what do they think? They think there's a vast land. That's how they picture it. There's a vast land. In this land there's a vast land, there's a palace, and there's a meadow, and there's a unicorn, and who knows what. And really, the kingdom of heaven is also here, is speech. Meaning, in other words, when we say that we want Hashem's kingdom, Malchut Shakai, to be also here, what we mean to say is that people will speak to each other properly. First of all, that's the minimum requirement that we have from the world. So let's end here. Hashem will continue tomorrow.